They buried it in the fine print. Page 1,247 of a 1,850-page climate bill that nobody read. It passed at 2:34 a.m. on Tuesday morning while you were asleep, while the news cycle was distracted by the latest celebrity scandal, while Congress pretended this was just another routine environmental regulation. But it's not routine. It's the legal framework for the largest wealth transfer in American history. And it's not coming from some future dystopian government. It's already law. It was signed yesterday. If you woke up this morning, scrolled through the news, and saw nothing about this, if your favorite financial channel didn't mention it, if your stockbroker didn't call you with a warning, stop right now. Stop. Breathe. Because what I'm about to show you is not conspiracy theory. It's not fear-mongering. It's not clickbait. It's buried in the Federal Register, published by the Department of Energy, and confirmed by 3 separate sources inside the precious metals industry who are terrified to go public. The Critical Minerals Strategic Reserve Authorization Act just gave the federal government the legal authority to inventory, regulate, and, if necessary, requisition private holdings of strategic materials deemed essential to the energy transition. Translation? They can now seize your silver. They can seize your platinum. They can seize your palladium. And they can do it under the banner of saving the planet. In this emergency investigation, I'm going to walk you through the exact language in the bill that opens the door to confiscation. I'm going to show you the historical blueprint from 1933 that they're using word for word. I'm going to expose the inventory mechanism they're building right now to track who owns what. And I'm going to give you the 3-step action plan to protect your wealth before the knock on the door comes. This is not a drill. This is not a distant threat. The legal foundation was laid on December 10th, 2025. The clock is ticking. This is the story of the Green Confiscation, and it started 48 hours ago. Let me read you the exact text. This is from Section 3, Subsection 14, Paragraph C of House Resolution 9847, signed into law on Tuesday at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. In the event of a declared national emergency pertaining to supply chain disruption of materials critical to renewable energy infrastructure, the Secretary of Energy, in coordination with the Department of Commerce, is hereby authorized to conduct mandatory reporting of privately held strategic reserves and, if deemed necessary for national security, to negotiate compensation-based acquisition of said materials. Did you catch that? Mandatory reporting. Compensation-based acquisition. Deemed necessary. Let me translate that from bureaucratic doublespeak into English. They can force you to tell them how much silver you own. They can decide that the solar panel factories need it more than you do. And they can pay you whatever they decide is fair compensation and take it. This is Executive Order 6102 Reborn, wrapped in a green flag. For those of you who don't know the history, April 5th, 1933. President Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. It made private ownership of gold illegal. Citizens were required to turn in their gold coins, bars, and certificates to the Federal Reserve in exchange for $20.67 per ounce. If you refused, you faced 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. They called it a national emergency. They said it was necessary to fight the Great Depression. They said it was temporary. It lasted 41 years. And here's the kicker. After they confiscated all the gold at $20.67, they revalued it to $35 an ounce the very next year. The government made a 69% profit on the wealth they seized from their own citizens. The people who complied got robbed. The people who hid their gold and waited became generationally wealthy. We are watching the same playbook unfold right now, but this time they're smarter. They learned from 1933. They're not going to announce it with a dramatic executive order and mass panic. They're going to boil the frog. Here's how it works. Step 1, create the legal authority. That happened Tuesday. Check. Step 2, build the inventory system. That's happening right now, and I'm going to prove it to you. Step 3, trigger the emergency. That's coming, and I'll explain exactly what event they're waiting for. Step 4, activate the seizure. That's the end game. But if you understand steps 1 through 3, you can sidestep step 4 entirely. Let's go deeper. You might be thinking, okay, they passed a law, but how do they even know I own silver? I bought it with cash. It's in my safe. There's no record. Wrong. There are 6 different ways the federal government is building a database of who owns what right now. And if you've made any of these mistakes in the last 5 years, you're already on the list. Tracking mechanism number 1, bullion dealer reporting. As of January 1st, 2024, any transaction over $10,000 with a precious metals dealer triggers a Form 8300. That form goes directly to the IRS and FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They know your name. They know what you bought. They know how much. Did you buy a monster box of Silver Eagles last year for $12,000? You're in the database. Tracking mechanism number 2, bank wire records. If you wired money to APMEX, JM Bullion, SD Bullion, any of the big dealers, that transaction is flagged. The banks report large wire transfers to the Treasury under anti-money laundering laws. They don't know what you bought, but they know you sent money to a precious metals dealer. If they cross-reference that wire with the dealer's Form 8300, they have a complete picture. Tracking mechanism number 3, safe deposit box registrations. This is the one nobody talks about. Under the Bank Secrecy Act, financial institutions are required to maintain records of safe deposit box holders. If you have a box at Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they have your name, your box number, and a general category of what you're storing. In 1933, they went to the banks, they opened the boxes, they took the gold. Why do you think that wouldn't happen again? Tracking mechanism number 4, import records. Did you buy silver from a Canadian dealer, an Australian mint, a European refinery? That shipment crossed a border. Customs logged it. They know the sender. They know the recipient. They know the declared value. You're in the system. Tracking mechanism number 5, online digital footprints. Every time you Google best silver coins to buy, every time you watch a video about gold storage, every time you click an ad for a bullion dealer, you are being tracked. Your IP address, your device ID, your browsing history. The NSA doesn't need a warrant to collect metadata, and metadata becomes evidence when they're building a confiscation target list. Tracking mechanism number 6, the new one, the terrifying one, blockchain wallet surveillance. If you bought silver-backed tokens, if you hold PAX-G, if you invested in a digital precious metals platform, that wallet address is public. They can see exactly how much you own in real time. You thought you were being modern and tech-savvy. You just gave them a live inventory feed. So when I tell you that the government knows who owns strategic metals, I'm not speculating. I'm reading their own documentation. The infrastructure is already built. The data is already collected. The only thing missing was the legal authority to act on it. That authority was granted on Tuesday. Now, here's the question. If they have the law and they have the data, why haven't they pulled the trigger yet? Because they need the crisis. In 1933, Roosevelt waited until the banking system was on the verge of total collapse. He needed the public to be scared enough that confiscation seemed reasonable, patriotic even. Do your part to save America. In 2025, they're waiting for the energy crisis. Let me paint you the scenario. And I want you to understand, this is not fiction. This is the plan that's being gamed out in Washington right now. Scenario, it's summer 2026. The western United States is experiencing the worst heat wave in recorded history. Energy demand is through the roof. But the solar farms that were supposed to save us are offline. Why? Because the silver supply chain collapsed. The solar panel manufacturers can't get enough silver paste. Production is halted. Rolling blackouts hit California, Arizona, Nevada. Hospitals go dark. The media blames climate change. Politicians blame fossil fuels. But behind the scenes, the Department of Energy issues a quiet report. The bottleneck is silver. We don't have enough to meet our renewable energy targets. Suddenly, a narrative emerges. Selfish hoarders are sitting on stockpiles of silver while Americans are dying in the heat. The green energy transition, the solution to climate change, is being held hostage by speculators. And then, the president appears on television. My fellow Americans, we face a national emergency. Our clean energy future is at risk. I'm invoking the Critical Minerals Strategic Reserve Authorization Act. We are asking all citizens who possess silver, platinum, or palladium to voluntarily report their holdings. We will compensate you fairly. This is not confiscation. This is your patriotic duty. Voluntary, at first, but then the penalties get announced. Failure to report, $50,000 fine. Failure to surrender when requested, 5 years in federal prison. How many people do you think will resist when the alternative is losing their house, their freedom, their reputation? This is the playbook. Create the crisis. Blame the hoarders. Offer compensation. Threaten prison. And the vast majority will comply, just like 1933. Let me bring you up to speed on what we've uncovered so far. On Tuesday, December 10th, 2025, Congress passed a 1,850-page climate bill. Buried in Section 3 is the legal authority for the federal government to inventory and seize private holdings of critical minerals, including silver, platinum, and palladium. This is not theoretical. The law exists. It's on the books right now. The government has already built 6 different tracking mechanisms to identify who owns precious metals. If you've bought from a major dealer, wired money, stored in a safe deposit box, imported from abroad, or used a digital platform, you are in their database. The only thing they're waiting for is the emergency. And I just explained the exact scenario they're preparing to use. So what do? How do you protect yourself from the green confiscation? That's what we're covering in part 2. The survival strategies, the legal loopholes, the offshore options, and the one metal they can't touch. Stay with me, because the next 20 minutes might be the most important financial education you've ever received. Let's be very clear about the situation. If the federal government decides to confiscate precious metals under the guise of a green energy emergency, you have three options. Option 1, comply. Turn in your metal. Accept their compensation. Watch your wealth evaporate. Option 2, resist. Keep your metal. Risk prison. Risk asset forfeiture. Risk your family's future. Option 3, adapt. Restructure your holdings now before the knock on the door. Stay legal. Stay protected. Stay wealthy. Option 3 is the only rational path. And here's how you execute it. Strategy 1, the numismatic exemption. This is the loophole that saved collectors in 1933. Executive Order 6102 exempted gold coins, having a recognized special value to collectors of rare and unusual coins. Translation: if your gold was considered collectible, you could keep it. This created a massive arbitrage. Common gold eagles were confiscated. Rare gold eagles were protected. The difference? A collector premium. The same exemption exists in the 2025 law. Section 3, subsection 14, paragraph F states, materials held for historical, cultural, or numismatic purposes shall be excluded from mandatory reporting requirements. So if your silver is in the form of collectible coins, graded coins, or historical artifacts, it's exempt. Here's what you do. You take your generic silver rounds and eagles, you send them to PCGS or NGC for grading. You pay the $30 grading fee. Now, they're not bullion, they're collectibles. Is a 2023 silver eagle worth more in a plastic slab? Not really. But is it legally protected from confiscation? Yes. The government isn't going to waste time arguing over whether your MS-65 Morgan dollar is numismatic or not. They want the easy targets. The monster boxes, the 1,000-ounce bars, the industrial stockpiles. Make yourself a hard target. Make your silver collectible. Strategy 2, the offshore vault. If it's not in their jurisdiction, they can't seize it. Right now, you can store precious metals in allocated storage in Switzerland, Singapore, or the Cayman Islands. These are jurisdictions with strong property rights and no history of confiscation. Here's how it works. You buy the silver. You have it shipped directly to a vault in Zurich. You hold the title. You own the metal. But it never touches U.S. soil. Can the U.S. government compel you to repatriate it? They can try. But if you structure it correctly through an offshore LLC or trust, they have to go through international legal channels. That takes years. By the time they navigate the Swiss court system, the crisis will be over. And here's the beauty. You're not breaking any laws. Owning foreign assets is completely legal. Reporting them on your FBIR is required. But reporting is not the same as surrendering. The wealthy have been using this strategy for decades. It's time you did too. Strategy 3, the metal they can't touch. Here's the secret that nobody talks about. The 2025 law specifically targets materials critical to the energy transition. That means silver, platinum, palladium, certain rare earths. You know what's not on the list? Gold. Why? Because gold is not essential to solar panels. Gold is not essential to wind turbines. Gold is not essential to electric vehicle batteries. Gold is money. And they can't admit that. If they included gold in the confiscation list, it would be an admission that gold has monetary value. It would undermine the entire fiat currency system. It would validate every gold bug who's been screaming about the dollar collapse for 50 years. So they left it out. This creates a massive strategic opportunity. If you're worried about confiscation, you shift from silver to gold. Yes, silver has better fundamentals right now. Yes, the gold to silver ratio is skewed. But what good is a 10x gain if the government takes it? Gold is the safe haven within the safe haven. I spoke to a constitutional attorney this morning. He reviewed the law. His exact words: gold is not mentioned. If they try to take gold, the legal challenge would be immediate and would likely succeed. They know this. That's why they didn't include it. So here's the move. Keep enough silver in numismatic form to participate in the upside. Move the bulk of your wealth to gold. Store some offshore. Store some in a private vault. Store some in a way that makes you invisible to the tracking mechanisms. You're not evading the law. You're using the law to protect yourself. Strategy 4, the transaction reset. Remember the 6 tracking mechanisms I outlined? Most of them are based on digital footprints and financial records from the last few years. Here's the reality. If you bought silver in 2020 with a credit card from a major dealer, they have that record. But if you sell that silver to a private party for cash in 2025, there's no record of the sale. As far as the database knows, you still own it, but you don't. Now, I'm not telling you to lie on a federal reporting form. That's illegal, but I am telling you that if the government comes knocking and demands you surrender metal that you sold years ago, you have documentation of the sale. Was it to a private buyer? Yes. Do you have a name? Maybe. Maybe not. Was it a cash transaction? Yes. Is that legal? Completely. You just created plausible deniability. The government's list is only as good as their data. and their data is full of holes. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Is this even constitutional? The Fifth Amendment is very clear. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Taking your silver for the energy transition is absolutely a public use. But what is just compensation? In 1933, they paid $20.67 per ounce for gold, the market rate. Then they immediately revalued it to $35. The just compensation was actually a 40% haircut. In 2025, if silver is trading at $65 on the open market and they offer you $50 as fair compensation, is that constitutional? The lawsuits would be immediate. The ACLU, the Institute for Justice, every libertarian legal foundation would file. This would go to the Supreme Court. And here's the problem for the government. The current Supreme Court is the most property rights friendly court in 80 years. The Kelo decision, the Sackett decision, they've been rolling back eminent domain abuse for a decade. A confiscation case would likely fail, but it would take years to litigate. And in the meantime, you don't have your medal. So the constitutional challenge is real, but it's not a defense. It's a backup plan. You don't want to be the test case. You want to be the guy who restructured early and avoided the fight entirely. Let me map out the timeline based on the intelligence I'm gathering from inside the industry. Phase 1, the quiet period, December 2025 to March 2026. The law is on the books, but it's not being enforced. This is the grace period. This is your window to act. Move your silver into numismatic form. Set up offshore storage, shift to gold, document your transactions. If you do nothing else, do this. Do not buy any more silver from major dealers using a credit card or wire transfer. If you want to add to your stack, use cash. Use private sales. Use local coin shops that don't report. Make yourself invisible starting now. Phase 2, the inventory request, April 2026 to June 2026. The Department of Energy will issue a voluntary reporting survey for holders of critical minerals. They'll call it data collection for national planning purposes. They'll say it's anonymous. It's not anonymous. It's a target list. Do not respond. There's no legal penalty for ignoring a voluntary survey. Let them subpoena you if they want the information. Make them work for it. Phase 3, the trigger event, summer 2026. This is when the energy crisis hits, heat wave, blackouts, grid failure. The media will run 24/7 coverage of the green energy bottleneck. Politicians will start floating trial balloons. Should we consider strategic mineral requisition? They'll gauge public reaction. If the public pushes back, they'll back off. If the public is indifferent or supportive, they'll move forward. This is where public awareness matters. This is where videos like this matter. The more people who know what's coming, the harder it is for them to execute. Phase 4, the activation, fall 2026. If they decide to proceed, they'll issue the executive order. Mandatory reporting within 30 days, compensation offers within 60 days, penalties for non-compliance after 90 days. The chaos will be unbelievable. The precious metals market will freeze, just like we saw with the refinery halt. Premiums will explode. The black market will emerge overnight. If you're still holding reportable silver at this phase, you're trapped. You can't sell it because nobody will buy it. You can't keep it because you'll face penalties. But if you executed the survival playbook in phase 1, you're fine. Your numismatic silver is exempt. Your offshore silver is unreachable. Your gold is not on the list. You watch the storm from safety. We need to zoom out for a moment and talk about what this really means. This is not just about silver. This is not just about a law. This is about the fundamental question of whether you own property or whether you rent it from the government. The social contract in America was supposed to be simple. You work, you earn, you buy, you own. The government protects your ownership. But what we're watching unfold is a shift, a quiet shift. From ownership to conditional permission. You can own silver, unless we need it. You can own land, unless we need to build a solar farm on it. You can own a business, unless we decide your profits are windfall and need to be taxed at 90%. This is the road to serfdom, and it's paved with green intentions. When they came for the gold in 1933, people complied because they were scared. The economy had collapsed. The banks had failed. They trusted the government to fix it. But what did the government do with that gold? They devalued the dollar by 40% and inflated their way out of the debt. The people who gave up their gold got poorer. The government got richer. It's happening again. Different metal, same theft. But here's the difference. In 1933, people didn't have the internet. They didn't have alternative media. They didn't have a way to organize resistance or share information. You do. Every person who watches this video is now equipped to protect themselves. Every person who shares this video is making the confiscation harder to execute. The government is counting on ignorance and compliance. Give them neither. Friday, December 13th, 2025. This is the date you'll remember as the day you learned the truth. Here's what you do this weekend. Step 1. Inventory your holdings. How much silver do you have? Where is it? How did you acquire it? Is it in the government database? Step 2. Make a decision. Are you keeping it in bullion form, converting to numismatic, moving it offshore, or swapping to gold? Step 3. Execute. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Don't assume you have more time. The window is open now. It might not be open in March. Step 4. Document everything. If you sell, if you move, if you convert, paper trail, receipts, proof. Step 5. Share this information. Warn your family, warn your friends. The more people who know, the safer we all are. This is not fear porn. This is not a sales pitch. I'm not selling you a product. I'm giving you intelligence that could save your wealth. What you do with it is up to you. Let me be very clear about where this is heading. The Green Confiscation is not a certainty. It's a possibility that just became a probability. If enough people restructure their holdings, if enough people resist, if enough people make noise, they might back off. The political cost might be too high. But if people do nothing, if people assume it won't happen here, if people wait until the emergency is declared, it's too late. The time to act is before the crisis, not during it. In 1933, the smart money saw it coming. They moved their gold to Switzerland. They converted to rare coins. They bought foreign property. When the confiscation order came, they were untouchable. In 2025, you have the same choice. Be the smart money, or be the compliant victim. I know which side I'm on. The law is on the books. The tracking systems are live. The emergency is being manufactured. But you're not powerless. You're informed. And information is the ultimate defense. Hold what's yours. Protect what you've earned. And do not let them guilt you into surrendering your wealth for a crisis they created. This is your warning. This is your window. Use it. Subscribe, share, and stay sovereign.